Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Random Vlogging. So today, I want to talk about something political, first of all, and something that's my phone. Something that a lot of people have been getting upset over recently. Um, and I want to put some of the arguments into a little bit of perspective. Mostly because um, most of what I have been hearing from the news, from social media, has been very biased to one particular side. And you guys know me, I tend to enjoy seeing all sides of an argument. So, what I would like to talk about is everyone that is getting really, really upset over the Supreme Court nomination. For those of you that don't follow American politics, um, there in the U.S., we have three branches of our federal government. We have the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. The legislative consists of the House and the Senate. The House of Representatives and the Senate, and those two houses are full of people that are elected by the general population to represent them. For the Senate, every state in the Union gets 2 senators. For the House of Representatives, the number of representatives that each state gets is based on its population. So both of them have differing amounts of power, but they're designed to basically work together so that everybody gets a voice in our government. It's a good thing. They're actually the ones that have the power to pass laws, things like that. The executive branch is the president, and he has the power to actually sign the laws or sign bills into law. But he can't do that until the Senate gives him a law, unless he does something what's called an executive action, where he just says, "Nah, I'm just gonna do this, and y'all can't do anything about it," which is a whole nother topic. The other thing that he can do is he can veto laws that he decides that he doesn't think should, or veto bills that he doesn't think should be turned into laws. So he's kind of like the final stepping stone. And that's what our entire government is based around, the idea that no one group or one person or one entity should have the power to do everything. The third branch is the judicial branch, and that is headed by the Supreme Court. That is a group of 7 judges that are appointed for life. And their job is basically to look at laws that get passed and decide whether or not they violate the Constitution, which is the supreme law of this country. And that's all they're actually allowed to do, is decide whether a law is constitutional or unconstitutional. However, that's a massive, massive deal, because even if the Senate and the House and the President all decide to pass a law that declares having green eyes is illegal, and anyone with green eyes is only allowed to be like a waitress or a plumber, that would be a violation of our Constitution. The Supreme Court can just go, no, and shoot it down. Well, recently, one of the Supreme Court justices, his last name's Scalia, and for the life of me, I cannot remember his first name. And I feel really bad about that, but so yeah, Scalia unfortunately passed away very suddenly. No one was expecting it. He apparently had, I think it had something to do with a heart condition. So he just died instantly overnight. Nobody knew what was happening. And with Obama, our current president, is coming to the end of his term, second term as president, meaning he can't be president anymore. We limit it to 2 terms after FDR. And he is a Democrat. He is a liberal president. The Republicans, which is the conservative party in the U.S., have been saying that, well, hey, this is his final year in office. It really isn't fair for him to elect or him to appoint a brand new person to the Supreme Court that will be there for life in his last term. Like, it just doesn't seem fair, is what they're saying. The reason they're saying that is that Scalia was a conservative judge. And replacing a conservative judge with a liberal judge, which is what Obama will do because he's going to appoint someone that agrees with him, will change how our Supreme Court works, will change a lot of their rulings and things like that. And so the Republicans and the conservatives in general are fighting hardcore to say, no, 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 we don't want him appointing a new judge. Conservative judge left, we want a conservative judge to replace him. And they're hoping that the next president that is elected will be conservative, which we're not going to go into the political race right now. The Democrats, which is the liberal party in this country, are screaming at the Republicans because the Republicans right now control, I know they control the House, they may have control of the Senate as well, meaning there are more Republicans than there are Democrats in the House of Representatives. And if everyone votes on party lines, that means the Republicans basically get to choose because it's all majority rule, with a few rare exceptions where sometimes it takes a 2/3 majority in order to pass certain rules and stuff like that. Our government is very complicated. So anyway, they're saying that they are going to fight any appointment that President Obama makes, because the way this works is the president appoints the judge. He goes, I want this person to be the next judge. And then, and this is my political knowledge failing me, I can't remember if it's both houses or if it's just the House of Representatives. I think it's both. Congress, which is what we call both houses, has to approve that. And again, this is another way to prevent one person or one entity from having the power to really kind of screw over the entire country. We have all these checks and balances. So because of that, the Republicans are claiming that they are not going to allow this to happen, that they are going to refuse to appoint anyone. And because they control at least one of the houses, I don't know if they control two, but at least one of the houses, they actually can do that. And Democrats are screaming at them because it's like, they're like, do your job, and this is unconstitutional, and you guys are evil. And it's horrible, horrible. And you just get all these people talking about how horrible the Republicans are and how they're doing this unthinkable thing that obviously the Democrats would never do something like that. And I want to bring to light the fact that what the Republicans are doing right now is actually a very common Democratic tactic. And I find it hilarious that the Democrats are crucifying these guys for something that they have done significantly more. What are you talking about, Jody? That doesn't make sense. I've never heard of this. You probably have, actually, depending on what state you lived in. First things first, I want to go to... Where did it go? I had this really, really cool thingy. Okay, yeah, so the idea of, let's specifically talk about SCOTUS nominations, Supreme Court of the United States. They just call it SCOTUS because it's easier to say. SCOTUS nominations. Obviously, the Democrats would never attempt to stop a sitting president from appointing a new justice to the Supreme Court. That just would never happen. Unless their names are Senator Charles Schumer. Oh, wait, no. Sorry, stop that. I think it was... Sorry, wrong one. Mitch McConnell is actually the one I'm talking about. The Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, back in, what was that? I think it was 2007? Oh, wait. Stop. I got to figure this. Yeah, it was. I'm reading the story right now, and I've read it once before, and I'm confusing everything. So I'm going to actually just read it. Schumer in 2007 encouraged Democrats to reject almost anybody George W. Bush selected for the Supreme Court during the rest of his term. He did quite literally what the Republicans are threatening to do. He's like, no. Everybody, just refuse him. Reject anyone that Bush does it so we can wait until we get a liberal president there to get a liberal justice on there. He didn't actually succeed in doing it. He just went on this tirade saying, no, this is what we want to do. The other one is Russ Feingold. Russ Feingold is actually a senator from my home state of Wisconsin. I don't believe he's in the Senate anymore, but he actually was willing to filibuster Bush in 2005 to stop, who was it, Samuel Alito, from getting on the Supreme Court. So both of these Democrats were going to do exactly what the Republicans have threatened to do. As of this point, neither have actually gone through with their threats. The only big difference this time is that there's a lot more Republicans than there, from what I read here, and again, this is, just reading from a single article, there's a very good chance that there's a lot more going on here. But from what I read here, this was only like one or two people that were threatening to do this, as opposed to basically the majority of one of the houses of Congress saying that this is what they intend to do. But they're still both in the threat stage. Neither party has actually done this before. They've just threatened to do it. So yes, the Republicans are taking a book out of the page out of the Democrats' book. Oh, whoop-de-doo. However, this one, again, it's a little bit different because there's a lot more of them. There's actually a possibility it'll happen where these other two people were basically just blowing steam. Even if Feingold had decided to filibuster, there's a limitation to how long you can filibuster, just due to the fact that we're human. In order to have a sustained filibuster, you have to have more than just one person. If you want to know what filibustering is like, go watch, what is it, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. It's a great old movie. Jimmy Stewart's in it. He does like a 48-hour filibuster, and it's really entertaining. So you should probably go see that. So obviously, we're all talking about threats and stuff like that. It's not like either party has ever done something to prevent a vote from happening, or have they? A couple years ago, back in, I think it's 2011, Democrats in Wisconsin became pretty famous around the country because there were 14 Democrats I can't remember if it was our Senate or our House. Da, 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 da. Yeah, it just says Democratic lawmakers in Wisconsin. They decided that they didn't want, back when Governor Walker had decided that he wanted to make Wisconsin a right-to-work state, which basically means that unions are not allowed to compel dues, meaning if you belong to, like if you work somewhere where there is a union, the union by law cannot require you to join their union and pay them dues. So if you don't want union representation, you don't have to have it. In states that are non-right to work, as long as there is, I think it's 51% of the people want to form the union, the other 49% don't have a choice. They are forced, if they want to work in that place, they are forced to join the union. The union will automatically take dues out of their paycheck before they even see it. I actually did a presentation in college about it that someday I'll upload here because I had to record it and everything. But yeah, so the Democrats did not want this to pass, and they couldn't stop the Republicans because they held a majority. And so the way that they decided to do this is there are rules about when you can try and pass laws and when you can't, and specific laws you can pass at certain times. One of those laws requires what's called, I think it's called a quorum, where it requires a minimum number of people to be there in order to vote on it. This is a way to prevent a party from like calling a meeting at 1 o'clock in the morning, getting two people in there and having them pass the bill, because if two people agree yes to a bill when there's only two people there, that would be a majority and they could pass whatever they wanted. And that'd be a really sneaky way to do politics, which politics is already pretty sneaky. So they have these things built into all of our government that says, well, you can't actually pass some laws unless you have a certain number of people there. So 14 Democrats from the state of Wisconsin fled over the border into Illinois so that they didn't have to vote on this wall, and so they wouldn't lose. Because of that, the government itself couldn't vote because they didn't have enough people in it. And for this particular law, they needed a specific number of people. What they did was actually illegal. They were fleeing in order to in order to avoid doing their job. And they actually, I think at one point, Walker actually was able to get at least like bench warrants or something to try and get them there. Like nobody knew where these people were. They were hiding out in Illinois specifically, so they didn't have to do this. So instead of just threatening to like filibuster or something, they actually broke the law, left the state, so that they would get their way, which is horrible. But that's just once. Like it's not like anyone else has ever done that, or have they? This is actually a very common tactic. In Indiana, 39 House Democrats decided to flee to Illinois. Apparently, Illinois is a really popular place for these guys to flee, and it's a Midwest thing. Apparently, 39 Democrats fled Indiana to stop their government from passing laws that the Democrats had decided were unfair to the state's middle class, and they didn't want the Republicans to be able to pass these things, so they fled to Indiana. 39 of them, which again is violating the law. Once there's a specific thing where they can, the government can actually call them and require them to return to vote on certain matters. And if you refuse that call, you're technically breaking the law. I don't know if it's a misdemeanor or a felony or whatever it is like that, or even if it's an actual law or just kind of a practice type thing. But there is a thing, and at that point they were actually not doing their jobs, and my understanding is they were actually breaking the law. So, oh wait, that's just Wisconsin and Indiana. It's not like anyone in any other state has ever done that, right? Well, there's a group called the Texas 11. They were Texas Senate Democrats who fled Texas for Albuquerque for 46 days, over a month in 2003, to prevent passing of, what was it, redistricting legislation, basically redrawing lines to decide who gets to vote on each representative and senator and things like that. They knew that they couldn't win, so they simply fled the states to prevent the law from passing. Because eventually, if the law doesn't get passed long enough, it eventually just goes away. Because they have to do other things as well. They have, like, as much as we all don't like politicians in general, they have a crap ton of stuff they have to do. And so if one thing just kind of sits on the thing for too long, they have to like, okay, we have other things. We have budgets to pass. We have other laws to pass. Just drop it, guys. We have to go. So yeah, they left for over a month. Democrats. Again, these are all Democrats. However, it's not like anyone in the Texas House of Representatives, which is generally the more powerful house, would have done something like that. Unless you're talking about a group called the Killer D's. They were a group of Texas House Democrats who left Texas for Oklahoma in order to prevent a resolution from going. There was 52 of them, and I'm trying to see. They actually did this just before the Texas 11. The Texas 11 got their idea from the Killer D's. It doesn't say in here how long they were gone, though, unfortunately. But yeah, so we have another group that are like, no, we can't win this. Fine, we're not going to play. And they fled the state. But again, that only happens in Wisconsin, Indiana, and Texas. Everybody knows Texas people are crazy. By the way, for any of you that live in Texas, I've been to Texas. The nicest people in the world live in Texas. I love Texas. My grandfather was born there. Texas is a wonderful place, so please don't take that out of context. I love Texas. So it's not like they've done this anywhere else, unless you want to talk about Virginia. Back in, what was it? It was actually last year. 2015, in the Virginia House of Delegates, around 20 Democrats, whenever a vote would come up, they would just flee the room. They would run away to prevent the vote from happening, where they're like, no, 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 no. As soon as the vote would attempt to happen, all of these Democrats would just get out of their seats and run away because they would break the quorum, and it would be no one would be able to pass anything because there wasn't enough people there. They did it twice. During the same vote, like they went out and they left. They're like, ha ha ha, we're gonna do this, and they can't do anything. And so the rest of the House goes, okay, let's do something else. We can't vote on this. Let's vote on something else. And the Democrats went, ooh, we won, and they go back in, and then they go, by the way, now that these guys are back, I want to vote on this. And they all went, peace out, bitches, and they left again, which is hilarious. It's just so funny. And then I want to see if there's anything else. I think that was the last one I was able to find. So all this is happening because of a massive breakdown in our political system, which is not the breakdown that you guys think I'm going to talk about. Yes, it's horrible that these minorities in this group, like this only happens when a minority can't get what they want. So if the liberals are the minority at this point, there would be no reason if they were the majority to do this, because they could just vote through. But it's basically bullying tactics to get what a very small group of people actually want to happen. The reason this is happening, though, this time, is because our Supreme Court of the United States is massively broken. Well, what do you mean by that? What I mean is the entirety of the Supreme Court's job, the only thing they're supposed to do is look at the law, look at the Constitution, and decide, does this law violate the Constitution? There's no political leaning to our Constitution. It was created by a group of conservatives and liberals at the beginning of our country. The entire point of the Constitution is not to have a bias in it. The Constitution is supposed to be these universal rights. If you actually read it, there's certain innate... I'm actually going to look up the actual test. Really? Constitution text. I can't even do that. I'm trying to think. Okay, so again, my knowledge of American politics is really, really poor. But the idea behind the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and everything like that is there are certain inalienable rights that are granted to us simply for being human beings. And that's what the Constitution is really designed to protect. As well as, and that's the idea of rights in general. Rights are not something that the government gives you. Rights are something that you have. And so in the Supreme Court, it really shouldn't matter if you have a liberal judge, a conservative judge, an independent judge, a voodoo judge. Their only job is to look at the Constitution, look and figure out what it was they meant when they built this Constitution, and decide whether or not new laws violate the Constitution. That is their entirety of their job. It shouldn't matter if they're liberal or anything like that, but it does massively, because the Supreme Court and really everything in our government has become biased. Each justice has become biased. They're not looking so much into the idea of whether or not it's constitutional, as far as they are whether or not it's something that fits with their personal belief structure. One of the reasons that Supreme Court justices are in there for life is because once they get on there, they can actually discard their party affiliations because they no longer have to get elected. It doesn't matter what they do. They can vote on principle, they can vote on conscience, because they don't have to worry about losing their job over pissing off their particular political party. This is something that every other elected official actually has to worry about. If a senator helps to pass a bill that they think is morally right, but their party is against it for whatever reason, like if a Democrat were to vote for a bill banning abortion or something like that, because their personal belief structure was like, well, I really don't agree with this. They would never be able to. They'd lose their seat. They'd never be able to be a Democrat again in politics because no one would vote for them, because the Democratic Party in general, one of their principles regarding abortion is that they are pro-choice. They're very much on the legalization of abortion, not the illegalization of it. So senators and representatives and things like that actually do not have the ability to vote the way they think they should. They actually have to vote the way that their party tells them to, and specifically their constituents, the people that actually voted for them, to a point. And if they don't, they're out of a job. The Supreme Court doesn't have to do that. They're elected for life, or they're appointed for life, I'm sorry. They're appointed for life specifically so that they no longer have to deal with two-party politics. They don't have to worry about whether or not making a moral decision will end their career. No, their entire focus is supposed to be making sure that this country does not deviate from the Constitution it was founded upon. And they don't do that anymore. And they haven't for years. And that is the biggest problem with our system right now. Even offices that you don't actually have to worry about losing your job over doing what is right has become biased and political. And that's why everyone's freaking out about this. Not because, they think that another liberal judge, is going to ruin the world. No, it's because it's going to shift the balance of power on the Supreme Court, and significantly more liberal laws are going to be passed, whether or not they violate the Constitution. Because the liberal judges on there are going to support liberal ideals as opposed to supporting constitutional ideals. And that is a horrible, horrible thing for this country. The founding fathers originally built this country with so many checks and balances so that what was best for everyone would hopefully happen. That is, the entire idea of a democracy is you do what is best for the population as a whole. And that sometimes means doing things that aren't as great for you personally because they will help more people than they will hurt. To use a Star Trek line, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. That's how a democracy works. And our democracy in general has started moving backwards in an attempt to fix some rather massive problems our society has had since the founding of this country. We have turned into a minority-ruled government and a minority-ruled country where we make rules based on the least common denominator as opposed to the majority. And there are certain advantages to that. The idea of discrimination laws are a good thing. They prevent people from discriminating based on race, based on sex, based on religion, based on sexual orientation, based on gender identity, which hasn't actually technically been, I don't believe is illegal yet. They're not declared a protected class, but they're working in that general direction. Technically, those are good laws. Mostly because discrimination doesn't just hurt the people it discriminates against. It hurts society as a whole. So while, yes, there are laws being passed specifically to help minorities in general, the fact that we're helping these groups and helping them to get the same rights that the majority has helps the majority as well, because they can start interacting with society and they can contribute to society in ways that the majority have been doing for years, and these people have not been able to. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that minorities in general don't deserve a voice. However, we're constantly seeing more and more often laws being passed that affect a smaller and smaller and smaller subset of society without any benefits to anyone in the larger whole of the country, specifically under the idea of, well, everybody deserves everything. And, well, yes, technically the rights granted in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights should be something that everybody gets. It shouldn't be that certain groups get special treatments simply because there's not as many of them. Everyone should be allowed the same rights without giving other people an additional leg up simply because they can't get everything they want because there's not enough of them to enact a majority. So yeah, that's my little rant on stuff like this. And I did want to bring to light that dirty politics is not just a Republican thing. And to be perfectly honest, now, I mentioned Democrats fleeing to other states. I could not find an example of Republicans doing the same thing. That doesn't mean that they don't do it. It means I couldn't find it while doing research for this. If anyone can find an example of Republicans fleeing the state in order to prevent a law from passing or a vote from proceeding, let me know, post it in the comments. I would like to see if this is simply a Democratic tactic or if the Republicans can do it. You may have to go back quite a few years in order to find it. Like I said, I could find nothing on it. So those of you that are smarter than me, go look for that. I want to see if the Republicans do it too. Because I love the idea of just kind of throwing other people under the bus going, we would never do that. Excuse me. You've already done it. So yeah, that's all for me today. I will see you guys tomorrow for some Kingdom of the Kale Isles on my Twitch channel. All right? Bye-bye.